Yo, what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the first ever video of the Pigskin Profit Fantasy Football channel. I'm Noah, and if you play Dynasty, you know that finding values and timing is everything. So today I'm here to bring you 5 wide receivers that you need to be buying in Dynasty right this moment. These aren't just big, hype names. We're talking upside. We're talking players who are undervalued. We're talking guys who this time next year can be cornerstones on your rosters for the next 3 to 4 years, okay? Whether you're rebuilding, reloading, whatever you're doing, I'm here to bring you the edge over your league mates. Let's freaking get it. All right, guys. So the first name we're going to talk about today is Puka Nacua, wide receiver for the LA Rams, going into his 3rd season, okay? So the first thing we just got to get off the table right now is nobody cares Puka was a 5th round pick. The dude is an outlier. He's one of a kind. He is a guy who came out as a prospect, as a nobody, comes in, crushes as a rookie, 17.6 points per game, good for wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 6 overall in total points. I mean, what more can you ask for? And then in year 2, the dude comes out and ups his points per game to 18.8 points per game, which is good for wide receiver 3 this year. I know he missed 7 games. I know he had a little bit of an injury bug this year, but man, from weeks 10 through 17, he showed an elite ceiling, averaging 22.3 points per game. That is up there with Jamar Chase, who averaged 23.7 points per game, lapping the entire wide receiver field last year. Just crushed 1U leagues, and Puka Nacua has that upside that only Chase, Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, only those type of guys have. And Puka's a guy you need to go out and getting. You need to go out and up tier, down tier, whatever. He's a guy who's attached to Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay. I understand Devontae Adams coming in. He may take away some targets, may take away some touchdowns. But if anything, I think he's going to open up the field for Puka. He is going to take some attention off him, which really showed last year down the stretch with Cooper Kupp, who started to show his age, started to decline a little bit. I still think Devontae Adams is a good player and may take a little bit of production away, but dude, Puka's averaged 9.3 targets per game over his entire career, and it doesn't look to be going anywhere, okay? This Rams offense is elite. It is an offense you want pieces of at all times. And in Dynasty, if you can move off guys like Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Nico Collins, as much as it hurts me as a Texans fan, I'm absolutely doing it to get to Puka Nacua. He is an elite asset, has an elite ceiling, and is going to be a cornerstone for your team for the next 5, 6, 7 years, however long he decides to play, okay? And one more name I want to throw out there is CeeDee Lamb. If you want a down tier and get a little bit younger wide receiver and get a second on top of Puka, then I'm doing it. Puka Nacua is just as good of an asset as CeeDee Lamb in my eyes. He may not be to some other people. He doesn't have that luster that CeeDee Lamb does, being a first round pick from the Cowboys. You know, had a legendary season 2 years ago. But Puka Nacua is a guy who I can absolutely envision having that type of season. He is going on as wide receiver 4 and underdog right now, about 7th, 8th overall, and is a guy you really need to be. You need to really be looking at him to add to your team if you're competing. If you're trying to look to push for a championship this year, this guy has winning weeks. He is consistent. He is just about everything you want. Is a guy I'm targeting in startups. I'm trying to trade up for him, all of that. And it's a guy you need to be targeting all year long. Go out and get Puka Nacua now. The second wide receiver that I'm going to talk about today is my personal favorite, Ladd McConkey. He is Keep Jared Cuts, wide receiver 10. He is my wide receiver 8, 9-ish range, around there. I have Nico maybe one spot ahead, bias-wise. But before we get into Ladd McConkey's rookie season and how incredible it was, I just want to say, man, do some of these teams looking back regret taking Pearsall, Leggett, Keon Coleman, or just a couple of the names that were taken over him in the draft. Ladd was a 2nd round pick, 37th overall, and he blew all those guys away. Even blew away the 4th overall pick, Marvin Harrison, who he has jumped in my rankings and in consensus rankings on Keep Trade Cut. Ladd comes out in his rookie season, averages 50.1 points per game, top 12 in total points, and man, I mean, he averaged 2.4 yards per route run, which is only something that one of 6 players has ever done since 2006, and that list consists of Jamar Chase, Jefferson, Puka, Brian Thomas Jr., Odell Beckham Jr., and Ladd McConkey. End of list. The Chargers improved offensively this offseason. They come out and take Amari Hampton at pick 22. They come out and take Trey Harris at pick 52. And last year they took Joe Alt at pick 7. They are committed to this offense. They are committed to improving it. And this team is only on the come up, okay? Trey Harris is going to open up the field vertically, being the outside X receiver. Amari Hampton is going to absolutely be a threat in the run game and open up for things for Ladd in the middle of the field, deep down the field, and even short areas of the field, okay? He is going about the middle of round 2 on underdog draft, so his price is kind of kicked in there. He's going up about wide receiver 11, which is pretty good for a guy going into his second season. Look, I acknowledge some of the downsides. I acknowledge that Greg Roman isn't everyone's favorite. He's not my favorite. I know that they're a little bit more run heavy than people would like them to be, but down the stretch, they really showed that they were willing to throw the ball. They were willing to air it out. Justin Herbert is elite, and I want the wide receiver 1 attached to Justin Herbert, who slings the rock all over the place. Say what you want about him. Say what you want about him throwing 4 picks against my Texans. I just personally think, that's just the Texans defense being a bunch of dogs, but that's neither here nor there, okay? So kind of going into Ladd's ceiling, I think there's easily an outcome where Ladd finishes as a top 5 wide receiver this year. Very sneakily. He has an Amon-Ra St. Brown plus type of ceiling just due to his verticality and his versatility. They move him all over the formation. He can play outside, he can play inside, he can play the X, he can play the Z. He is elite. He wins at all 3 levels of the field. He gets open, and dude, just turn on the tape. He is absolutely incredible. He's a guy that I want to go out and getting. He's a guy I have traded up multiple times in startup drafts to the beginning of the 3rd round to grab. He is a guy I am looking at in my redraft leagues this year, on underdog drafts, anywhere I can get him. He is going kind of later in some of these platforms at the moment. I know it's kind of early, like on Yahoo, ESPN. I know we're like 3 months out to the season, but if those prices don't rise even a round or so, then I think Ladd McConkey should be owned in every single one of your leagues. He's incredible. He's elite. He's a guy, if you can go from, in terms of dynasty wise, if you can go from Marvin Harrison Jr., again, which hurts. If you can go from Nico Collins, which hurts even more there. If you can go from Garrett Wilson, Drake London, some of these names we kind of talked about with Puka, if you can get to Ladd McConkey, I really think you should. He has shown to be in a tier of his own, along with BTJ when it comes to, to rookies or when it comes to rookie players in the 2024 NFL draft, along with Neighbors. Don't want to forget about him. But Ladd is elite. He's a guy you need to be going out and targeting, trading for if you can, down tiering to whatever you can do to go get Ladd McConkey. I think you should absolutely go out and get him. He should be a priority in every single one of your dynasty leagues and in your redraft leagues this upcoming year. We're going to jump right into the 3rd wide receiver in this video, and it's going to be the newly acquired Dallas Cowboys wide receiver, George Pickens. I was not a fan of him when he was in Pittsburgh. He was the alpha in a bad offense with bad quarterback play and just a bad environment in general. He had Justin Fields throwing on the ball, Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph. These are some putrid names. That Pittsburgh offense was gross. It was way more run heavy than it probably should have. And man, he gets to go to Dallas, play opposite of CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott at the helm. He gets to join an offense's top 6 in pass attempts the last 2 seasons, and that is with Dak out most of last year. He is walking to a perfect situation. All the attention's on CeeDee Lamb. He gets to do what he does best: stretch the field, make big plays, win you weeks in fantasy. He can go for 30, 40 points any given week. And this year, I really think it's a realistic range of outcomes that he finishes top 15 at the most to top 24 in points per game. It could even sneak into, the really early or the really high upside wide receiver 2s in fantasy. If he can, top 1,000 yards, if he can get, 60, 70 catches, if he can fall in the end zone 10 times, if Dak ends up throwing 40 touchdowns, man, that is just absolutely money for George Pickens, who's a guy I think is super undervalued. I think he's keep trade cuts wide receiver 34. He fluctuates in the range of, the mid-30s to the early 30s, and he's going behind guys like Terry McLaurin, Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, guys who I think have the same upside, who are around the same age. Also a guy like Ricky Pearsall, who we don't know anything about, We have no idea what kind of receiver he is. He's in a very crowded offense in San Francisco, and these are guys I'm trying to get off of and maybe down tier from and get a second on top of CD or excuse me, a second on top of George Pickens, maybe, you know, going from Jameson Williams and getting George Pickens plus a second, moving from Terry McLaurin to George Pickens, maybe moving a third and going from Ricky Pearsall to George Pickens. That's something I would do. If you can go from Garrett Wilson and get George Pickens plus a first, I'm doing it all day long. I mean, that liquid first I think is probably this time next year going to be just as valuable as Garrett Wilson himself. And George Pickens is a guy you should absolutely be targeting. In Dynasty, he's 24 years old. And if he has a big season and he gets re-signed by the Cowboys and he gets an extension, dude, his price is going to absolutely skyrocket. And it's going to go up and up and up. Being the Cowboys' number 2 receiver is a pretty big asset in Dynasty and something that I'm willing to buy into. And I will say I'm not going to pay a liquid first for George Pickens. I think that's a little too risky, and I think it's something you should do maybe way closer to the fantasy football playoffs if he's absolutely crushing. But dude, if he keeps his head screwed on straight, um, there's not a lot of guys who can top his ceiling in fantasy in terms of like on a week to week basis. And as someone I'm targeting in redraft, again, I'm targeting Dynasty. I'm trying to go get, trying to down tier to get, George Pickens plus, and as someone you need to be targeting in Dynasty. Wide receiver 4 on this list, Tyreek Hill. I know it could be a risky one, probably is a controversial one. A lot of people probably think he's done. He's old, he's around 31 years old, and we saw a drop-off last year, and I understand. He averaged 12.8 fantasy points per game. It is, I believe, the lowest since his rookie season, which is quite a fall from the wide receiver 2, I believe, in fantasy that he was in 2023. And he was an absolute monster that year. And as someone who, if Tua can stay on the field, and if Tua can play most of the year, and Tyreek is the player that at least I think he is. I still think he's a very good player. I still think he'd be very productive. He looked checked out at times last year. He did not look very focused. He had a wrist injury. He had wrist surgery this offseason, and is something that seems to have been fixed, okay? Now, I know there's some risk with Tyreek, but look, if you're chasing money in Dynasty, if you're chasing money to try to win your fantasy football championships, Tyreek Hill's a guy you need on your roster. I mean, he can, like I said earlier, he could finish as the wide receiver 1 this year if he gives us one more season of elite production. He has that type of ceiling. He has shown it over the course of his career. He is electric, okay? In that Dolphins offense, I believe in Mike McDaniel. Whatever you want to think about him, okay? I know the Dolphins looked pretty putrid last year without Tua, but if Tua can stay on the field, my goodness, Tyreek Hill can absolutely go nuclear again, all right? And the great thing about Tyreek Hill is he's not expensive, okay? He's not. I've seen some ridiculous trades where Tyreek Hill's going for just regular seconds. I've seen him go for, I saw a trade on Dynasty Data Lab, by the way, which is the website you need to go to if you want to look for, maybe a price check on some of these players. I saw Tyreek Hill go for Brian Robinson, not Bijan Robinson, Brian Robinson. That's ridiculous, okay? Tyreek Hill is a guy who's in like the close to the 40 range, like keep Trey Cutting, and a guy a lot of people are out on. And if you can buy him closer, or if you can buy him a little farther away from the regular season, when the regular season starts, and you can get him at a lower price, I know his price is going to go up when we get closer to the regular season, because people are going to be excited. They're going to want to scoring points, okay? And Tyreek is a guy whose price could rise, so I would get him right now if you can for cheap. If you're competing, absolutely go out and get him, okay? Look, it's not going to get any cheaper than this for Tyreek Hill unless he's absolutely dust, all right? Tyreek Hill is a guy you need to go out and get in Dynasty if you want to win a fantasy championship this year. He's a guy you probably need on your roster, and is someone I'm willing to bet on. He's going in about the 3rd round of an underdog draft, which is, it's far from the beginning of the 1st round he was going last year, but man, people, there's still believers out there, and there's still a realistic outcome where Tyreek Hill could finish as the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. And like we've stated so many times in this video, not many guys have that upside. So go get him right now, okay? Do the best you can. pivot, down tier, whatever you can do, all right? Go get Tyreek Hill. Go win fantasy championships. Go get that money. That's what it's all about. So the fifth guy on this list is someone I'm pretty excited about. I'm very high on. I don't know if the market has caught up yet, but Kyle Williams, wide receiver of the New England Patriots, okay? Newly acquired Drake May weapon. And the reason, like I just said, some of us may believe in Kyle Williams is because of Drake May. All right, Drake May was sneaky, very good last year in terms of fantasy points per game, and is a guy who can chuck the deep ball, and is a guy who is, by the way, and Kyle Williams is stepping into an offense where there's not a clear wide receiver one. I understand Stephon Diggs signed for a buttload of money, but the Patriots couldn't get anybody to come to New England this offseason. They offered Godwin $20 million more to come there, and he turned it down. Nobody wants to be in New England. But they go out and they take Kyle Williams in the third round of the 2025 draft, okay? Look, I know he was kind of a smaller, unknown prospect coming out of Washington State, but dude, if you turn on the tape, he is electric. He can play inside, he can play outside, like I said. Even for his frame, he can beat press, according to Matt Harmon. Matt Harmon is in love with him. Matt Harmon, by the way, is the GOAT when it comes to charting wide receivers and kind of charting how these career outcomes may play out. So Kyle Williams is a guy I'm super high on. And man, if you watch the tape of Washington State, he is electric after the catch, man. He is a route technician. He's a guy who gets get in and out of his breaks quick. He can stretch all three levels of the field, and is a guy that, you know, if you're betting on a wide receiver in the New England offense this year, I'd be betting on Kyle Williams, not a 31-year-old Stephon Diggs. I know he got a contract, but he's coming off a torn ACL, and just not something I want to bet on, okay? Kyle Williams can skyrocket this time next year. He could be in the mid-20s if he goes nuclear in the middle towards the end of his rookie season. That's what seems to happen all the time. It happens every single year with these rookie wide receivers. A couple of them hit their stride in the middle towards the end of their season, some of them end up being league winners, okay? We saw it last year a bunch of times, all right? And Kyle Williams is a guy I don't think I'm going to overpay for right now, but if I see signs in the middle of the season, if I hear some good stuff out of training camp, it's a guy I would probably pay a flat second for. It's a guy I'm trying to move off of, some of these older wide receivers and get Kyle Williams plus. It's a guy if I can move off of an older running back like James Conner, if I can't get, correct value, I might move off of him for Kyle Williams just because I think Kyle Williams is a strong bet. He's relatively unknown at the moment, unless you're a sicko, unless you really were paying attention during the pre-draft, the combine, all that stuff. And Kyle Williams is a guy that I would be targeting absolutely in Dynasty, but in redraft, he's a sneaky guy you can add late in the late rounds. He's going pretty late on Underdog as well. So, look, if you're looking for a guy that could possibly have massive upside and rise big time, it's the guy that is attached to Drake May and the guy that can, by the way, he can absolutely flat out play. Kyle Williams is a guy you need to target right now. That's going to be all we have for today, guys, but I'll be back with a video here coming soon. Tell me if you're buying some of these guys. If you're selling some of these guys, let me know in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back with more to come.